Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. David Elwood, Dean of the Kennedy School of Government, thank you for your kindly invitation. Esteemed faculty of Harvard University, dear students, I'm very pleased to be back at Harvard University, and in particular at the Kennedy School of Government, my alma mater. I remember not very long ago, I was here as a graduate student. The friends I've made and the ideas I took from here have had a strong influence on me. Today, I have the privilege to serve my country as president, and I'm sure some of you will soon have the same privilege of serving your own country as well. Let me offer my congratulations on your graduation. I know from experience this hasn't been easy and has required time and great efforts to achieve. So I would like to recognize your achievement. I would take this opportunity to share with you some reflections on the importance of public service and its role in the construction of strong and prosperous nations. As you, I have always had my own questions about what is the secret of public service? What is the meaning of politics? What lies behind this great vocation? And the key issue of public service and politics is the ideas, the principles, and the values that you stand for. I'm convinced these are the things that provide meaning to your life, and that those principles and values are more important in public service than anywhere else. The secret is that you have to firmly believe in something. It can be freedom, it can be human rights, fighting poverty, your fellow men. It can be your own religious beliefs, or you can simply believe in your country, in the future of your people. What is important is to have something to fight for and to live for. And then you must have the determination and courage to build your life and your work around those beliefs. We live in times in which many people cannot see beyond their personal gain or their personal interests. This is unfortunate because they have lost, in many cases, the sense of giving back, the satisfaction of serving others, and the fulfillment of working for the common good. I began, as a young man, to work on projects in my home state, Michoacán, to help poor communities. But I soon realized that no matter how much I did, it will never be enough for them. That is when I decided to dedicate myself to a life of public service and politics. It was to be able to make a real difference in the struggle to improve my country and the lives of its people. For me, it's clear the best way in which you can really help people to transform their reality is through government, through politics, through public service. But public service, my friends, public service is about more than just wanting a career in public administration. You must also assume responsibility not just for you, for your own destiny, but for the destiny of all. The kind of public servant that we need is a leader who is able to think always of the common good. And it is not only thinking about the common good in the abstract, but also thinking about the common good in practical and very complex situations. Because it is always easy to choose between good and bad. And it could be a little bit more complicated to pick between two good alternatives. That is easy. But in reality, this hardly even happens. The most difficult and the most common thing in government is to have to choose only between two bad alternatives, not bad alternatives because they are bad per se, but bad alternatives because they imply costs and downsides that you don't want to face. This is unpleasant, but often it's the kind of decisions that determines the future of our society. This is where the ethical choice is necessary, and it's hard to choose the lesser of two evils. And let me share with you some of my own hard choices as President of Mexico in 3 years. David was talking a little bit about it. When we discovered the outbreak of a new flu virus last year, we had to decide whether to hide the information about this deadly and fast-spreading disease or to be transparent and responsible. Instead of ignoring the virus and its deadly consequences, we took the decisions to tell our people and the world quickly so most could prepare themselves despite the huge economic cost this implied. Being responsible, we took the right decision. We had to decide whether to confront the criminals that had been ignored for decades. We could have left them alone to increase their power and influence, allowing them to take over towns and communities and threaten the people living there. Instead, we decided to face them and pay the costs in terms of time, economic resources, and unfortunately, human lives. And we are weakening their capabilities while strengthening and modernizing our judicial and security system and institutions. And with that, we are building the future of liberty, security, and freedom that our families deserve. Fighting criminals, we took the best decision. We could have allowed our country to continue polluting as usual and done nothing as other powerful and developing countries have done. Or we could face the challenge that threatens humanity and pay the cost that this implies. Instead of ignoring the threat, Mexico has decided to pay the short-term cost now instead of paying an even higher cost in the future for the planet. Fighting climate change, we took the smart decision. And last year, when Mexico was just emerging from the worst global economic crisis in living memory, we had to make very difficult decisions as well. We could have decided to prolong our increase in spending and increase our public deficit. Instead, we decided to reduce spending and raise public revenues, including taxes, to preserve our macroeconomic stability. It was hard, especially in political terms. But otherwise, Mexico will be under the same kind of financial pressure as some developed countries like Greece, Spain, Portugal, Ireland, all those problems that they are, or pressure that they are under today. Preserving macroeconomic stability, we took the right decision. And today, Mexico enjoys financial stability, economic growth, and job creation. The Mexican economy grew 4.3% in the first quarter of this year. Mexican exports are growing at an annual rate of 40%, and we have 400,000 more jobs today than we have at the beginning of this year. The highest number of net new jobs created in a 4-month period ever in Mexico. Thanks to this, we have been able to continue financing the fight against poverty. We increased the program of Oportunidades. We are reaching almost 6 million families today, helping them to bring their kids to the school and to the doctor, and helping them with an economic income. And in only 3 years, for instance, we have built or rebuilt 1,700 hospitals and clinics in Mexico, more than one a day during 3 years. And we tripled the budget for the so-called Seguro Popular, the program that covers people who don't have health insurance by other means. And thanks to these difficult decisions, we are going to reach a goal that any country, as David said, developed or developing country will be proud of. Universal health coverage by 2012. A doctor, medicine, a treatment for every Mexican who needs it. In public service, my friend, you can always have that option to let problems take their course, ignoring the terrible consequences for your people in the future, and instead obtain the maximum short-term political benefit. That's political as usual. Or you can decide to transform your country without regard to the short-term cost that any important change implies. That's one thing you need to learn. This is a very important lesson from the government. There are no big changes that do not imply cost. In public service, you have to be prepared to pay this cost. And today, we are satisfied that we have bet on profound change in Mexico. We have carried out reforms that were ignored for decades because of various political interests. We carry out a pension reform that will allow us to guarantee the payment for all public servants while saving for our public finances the equivalent of 30 points of GDP at net present value. We passed an energy reform that will allow Pemex, the state-owned company, to access the technology and investment of global companies around the world that will increase its operational capacity and help it regain its place among the top oil companies in the world. We have doubled investment in infrastructure, reaching 5 points of GDP a year, which will allow Mexico to become a privileged logistic platform for international trade and investment. Today, even with all the protectionist trend around the world, we reduced tariffs by more than a half, below 5%. We also simplified red tape, and with this, Mexico has become one of the most competitive manufacturing platforms in the world. Sometimes taking the right decisions means paying short-term costs to achieve long-term goals. But believe me, this is far better than paying long-term costs to achieve short-term goals. Today, we are looking for more reforms in the country. We are looking for antitrust legislations in order to make Mexican economy more competitive. We are looking for a reform in telecom in order to provide the benefits of the future for our people, including access to internet. We are reforming the economy and the society, the education, in order to provide the people the future that we are looking for. Today, my friends, the world faces new challenges and needs young leaders with fresh ideas to face them. So, I invite you all to go out into the world and use what you have learned here to build a better future for your communities and your countries. I am sure that those of you who plan to follow a life of public service will find opportunity to serve your societies to the best of your abilities. I strongly believe The best place for a true leader is public service. It's politics. It's to formally lead society. The world needs graduate students like you. You are the new generations of leaders that have to take one of the most noble missions of creating a new world order. Dear friends, students, amigas y amigos, allow me to express again my joy at being here. Today, you will begin a new stage in your lives with your graduation. I'm sure all of you will have the ability and the courage to transform your countries and the world. All of you, I know, will show great leadership in the service of society. Thank you very much, and congratulations again.